Thank you for that very meaningful song. All of this, I appreciate it, and just that call to that you are our vision, that God is our vision, and thank you for bringing us into this time. Hi everybody else. Sorry, I got talking with them. I didn't mean to turn my back on you. I just wanted to. I wanted to honor this sacred moment. Yeah, being together. That's become more meaningful for me to take these moments of work together. They're really sacred, aren't they? That we can be together. I just want to say, first of all, in case you were not sure, kind of confused, I'm not Pastor Cheryl. She was supposed to speak today, and she had asked if I'd come, and Pastor Rebecca asked me to, because Pastor Cheryl's uncle that we've been praying for is right on that cusp of leaving this world to go to be with our Heavenly Father, and so she's there with him, and they expect today or tomorrow, sometime real soon. And she's right there with him. This is Uncle. She's loved and known for many, all her life. And so she's there. So instead, you have me. I know that might feel like kind of you thought you were going to have first class seats, and now you're downgraded into, because my son works for the airlines. I'm used to that. Sometimes you hope you get first class because it's all by what they give you, and then you get another one. Oh, shucks. But anyway, I hope it'll be okay. But I have a little special gift to make it not so painful that I'm here instead of her. And that's Pastor Cheryl's daughter is going to come and read the scripture for us today. And Jensen, yay.
Ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks will receive, and anyone who seeks will find, and the door will be opened to those who knock. Would any of you who are fathers give your son a stone when he asks for bread? Or would you give him a snake when he asks for a fish? As bad as you are, you know how to give good things to your children. How much more then will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? Matthew 7, verse 7 through 11.
Thank you, Jensen. Thank you so much. Thank you. Jensen is one of my wonderful favorite people in life, and we had a wonderful time. We catch up. She's home from New Zealand, and she gave me a gift, actually. This is a Maori symbol, and it's a fish, and it's a hook as well. And the meaning of it behind also is that it is seen as kind of like a protection and guidance in people who are in the water a lot. And she knows I swim and am in the ocean a lot and grew up in the ocean, so that's been really meaningful. Thank you, Jensen. In addition to that, we met a couple weeks ago. We were having coffee and talking, and I just always enjoy that time with her. And she asked me, we were talking about a word for the year that we're going to talk about today, and I really hadn't come to a new word for this year. And I was sharing as she was asking, well, for the last 3 years, it's been surrender. God's called and calling me to surrender so that he may care for me. And it has that element of surrender, of not just giving up or just letting go, or I'm not going to do that anymore. It's really opening up. A surrender that invites and welcomes God to come to our lives and move in meaningful ways. And it's been 3 years of kind of finding my way through grief and loss and change and a new life. And in the last few months, it's been a kind of a stirring of now, where does I go from this surrender? What's this next season like? And so when she asked that, I didn't quite have. But it sent me into the next couple of days of a process that I want to share with you. The message is sort of built on my own process and an invitation to have a meaningful way of coming to a word. And so the title of the message today is, instead of picking my word, it's really letting my word for the year find me. So it's an invitation of welcome and letting my word for the year find me, letting what God has for us. And so if it's okay, we'll walk through this process a little bit. If you have the notes, that will help. Or you can just look on the screen. No, I know I feel so bad for our people back there. They've been trying so hard all morning. So it's right in the notes, and that's okay. I think the notes are hopefully as helpful as possible. This passage and it's really based on just really responding to Jesus' words. Really basic. This basic passage in some ways seems so basic, but it's very meaningful. And it just starts, and we'll go through step by step, but you look at it, it's really an invitation from Jesus to be open, to surrender the things that might be helping us in these kind of specific ways, and we'll talk through this. So he had letting my word for the year find me. I let my word for the year come to me by, number one, A meaningful ask. A meaningful ask. And really learning, here Jesus says, ask and you will receive. And he goes on to say, and for everyone who asks will receive. This is his promise. When you ask, you will receive. And it's really his guidance and instruction about prayer and about encountering with God. Is oftentimes we're tempted to go tell God what we want, tell God what we need, tell God what he should do, tell God how life should be. And really Jesus is saying the opposite, ask. What could be? What could happen? And it's a whole different kind of humbleness. It's kind of a surrendering, not giving up, but really surrendering from control, guardedness, protection, the things that we set in place for how life and God and our life should be. And then he says, ask. You can ask anything. What's really important? And I put under there's two kind of parts of this ask. Ask God for a word or phrase that helps me find and pursue what matters most in life. So meaningful ask is really where we're asking God and welcome God, help me find a word or phrase that really helps me pursue and see what really is meaningful in life, what matters most. And with that comes a second part in my notes there, you'll see, is also courage to release what matters less, to be less, to let go of what's of less importance. It may have been good and good for a season, but also maybe it's time to let go. How I've been, how I'm used to life being, how others could be or should be, how life used to go, all those things, what my practices were before or what my ways of doing things were. And I've been in that whole surrender these last 3 years particularly, of learning to surrender what I'm used to, what I used to being with a lifelong companion and living with it. And that's hard, that's grief, that's loss, that's emptiness, but it's not the end of life. And also in that part of going through that is also learning to say what matters most. And sometimes the way that I've been and lived my life is that surrender allowed me to start seeing when I really let go of everything, it allows me to ask God, so what is life about now? How do I live now? So surrender isn't giving up. It's not giving up. It's really giving in to God, and it's allowing to be able to ask, okay, I'm not holding my preferences. And the words that have come to mind really strongly for me is the difference between should and could. When I'm stuck in should, it's about how I think life should be, my control, my expectations, the way I think it's going to be best, and what I think is reasonable to expect of God, people, life, and myself. And when I find myself saying should, I know that's not kind of an alarm for me of saying, wait. Because that leads to despair, frustration, demands, criticalness, and oftentimes hopelessness and depression. Depression comes for all kinds of reasons. I'm not saying simply, and some of us struggle with that all our lives. I'm not meaning to minimize or demean that in any manner at all, but here's something that we can do something when we are stuck on should, what somebody else should be, how life should be, how things should go. And then God invites us to could. What could be? What could God be saying? What could God be doing? And then the surrender, as I let go, it's really about surrendering what should, and also then to be really, what could you be saying to me when I'm not holding much anymore because I've learned to surrender and let go more. It allows God to say some things we can let go of. They matter less now. And some things are really important to stay, and some things need cleansing, some things in your lives need healing, something need renewing. And then it also allows for something new to come in. And that's the power of a meaningful ask. Now, many of you know my son Anthony. He's going to turn, 44 this next week, yeah? Can you remember when he was young? Yeah. I can't believe he's only 2 years younger than me, so that's the confusing part. Yeah. Well, that's a sign of how old I am, too. I'm a little confused all the time. I mean, that blows my mind even saying it, and for him, too. No, I'm not that yet. Anyway. But around in 2008, he was venturing into the film and movie industry and getting some work here and then finding his way. And he got his big opening was to work on this movie called Tropic Thunder. Any of you remember that? Robert Downey Jr., Jack Black, remember that? Yeah, it was a great movie. And Ben Affleck was in there, and he actually directed it. And it was a big film, actually, and a big break for Anthony. And when he got hired in the camera department, which was his dream. And he was just kind of the younger, grunt guy doing the work. And he was there for a week, and the director of photography and all the crew, the adult crew, the established crew, they didn't talk to him for a week. They just told him what to do. And he did it. He was happy to be there. He's doing whatever they asked. And so then after a week, they finally stopped and said, okay, are you quitting? And he said, no, why would I quit? And he said, well, how'd you get here? You have a dad, a mom, uncle, auntie, somebody who has connections got you here. And he said, no, none of that. Just one friend told me they're hiring, so I came and just tried. And that's how I got hired. And he said, wow, usually we get all these people that somebody wants their whatever relative to have an experience. They get them in, and then they last about a week. That's why we're asking. He said, no, I'm here. And so the director, Thomas Tull, 2 Academy Awards for director of photography. One is River Runs Through It. Remember that one? Yeah. Brad Pitt and I were in that movie, Yeah, no, anyway, great movie. And I can't remember the other one right off the top of my head, but anyway, he is an accomplished director of photography. So he's talking with Anthony. He said, okay, well, why are you here? What do you want? He said, I want to be what you're doing. I want to be like that. And and then after he said, he said, oh, was that disrespectful? Or, and the guy said, oh, they all kind of laughed. The older guys, they kind of laughed. And he said, okay, really? He said, well, you've lasted this long and you're not looking to run away, so okay. And I don't know if you saw it, and if you saw that movie, it was all done on Kauai, or most of it, out in the jungle on a ranch. And so they were carrying like 15 cameras all over through the jungle, putting it up. In 5 months he was there, he went through 4 pairs of boots, just worn out from the hard work, tramping up and down all over the place. So it was hard work. It was good reason to see why people, but he loved it. So the director said, okay, every day, they're busy. Nothing happens until the camera department is in place. And in a jungle, it's very complicated and it's a lot of work. So everybody's waiting on actors, directors, everybody, till these guys get placed. But Thomas Tull said to Anthony, okay, first thing in the morning when you come, one question. You can ask me one question every day. Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? And it was really good. But after a couple months, it became very challenging because every day he said, make it a good one. Make it meaningful. If you're going to ask a question, make the most. And Anthony felt, he didn't even need to say it, but he felt this is my chance. And so for a while, it was really great and good. He had lots of things. And then after a while, he said, man, it got to be hard. I'm driving from, they'd work 18 hours. I'm driving back to work, and I'm thinking, oh, my question. I forgot to think of one all last yesterday. And he'd come, and the director took time from every day. And after a while, sometimes he'd just come up with one last minute, and the director would say, really? That's your question? And he said, no, I was, give me a minute. And they couldn't take too long, but he would work hard. But what it did is it trained him to ask meaningful questions, which now, that was in 2008. And to this day, he and I just had a great conversation a couple of days ago. And I just love the way that he thinks and he asks questions, he searches out, looking for meaning. So what I want to encourage you, maybe you have your word already, maybe you have no idea yet. But I'd like to just invite you, even if you have your word, well, ask a meaningful question about, God, how are you helping me find what matters most in life through this journey with this word or phrase that I've received? And, many people, well, I got my word, and this is what it's going to be about all year long. And I would say, just let some of that go. Surrender some of that and say, God, here's the word. Guide me and teach me things I don't even imagine at this point. I'm on a new path with you. To this word you give me. If you don't have a word, don't panic. We're going to have a process to help you, as here the pastors have set up. But also, just take a moment to ask God, what might be a meaningful word for me to live and grow into this year? To help me discover in new ways what matters most. To surrender what I think should be to be open to what could be with you. And to let go of some things I've held on and think, I do it this way, this is how I am, this is how I got to be, this is what I want, and to let some of that go. Maybe it's of lesser importance at this new season in your life. I'm in this myself. I just want to invite you and join you. What I love about this is that here Anthony, he came to this Thomas Tull and this director, well accomplished and professional, and in asking, he was able to learn from him and grow from him and become like him. And he's had a career in movie and film since then, and has directed a couple things, and still working. These last year or two, it's been really sparse for the whole industry. And he's just going to start a new job in the end of February with this new TV series that's coming to Hawaii called Untamed. And I don't have a role in it. Sorry, this time. I watched last seasons of it, and so when he told me about it, I said, oh, I saw that. I haven't to watch that. So it's kind of, he's happy to have work. He's been struggling, but he loves the work. But he's learned not just how to do film, but how to think and ask meaningful ways. And Jesus says, ask. It's okay to ask. Matter of fact, stop telling me what you think and what I should do, and ask me what I am doing and what I want for you. Welcomeness. And the thing about it is, sounds simple, but it's actually being very vulnerable, willing to be open and vulnerable to God. Okay? So here's a question you can ponder. Am I open to want a more meaningful life with God and with myself and with others? Am I open to wanting a more meaningful life? A lot of times we come to being a Christian devoted, how do I change to be what I'm supposed to do? And really, I think asking yourself, am I open to a more meaningful life? Even in our faults and our brokenness and our flawed ways, God doesn't leave us there without helping us find something meaningful, a new way in our lives. Because when we try to change on our own, we will come up to the end of our capacities, and God says, now we can start into something more meaningful because you're learning to receive from me. Okay? Whew. All right. Is it okay I go on? Thank you. I didn't hear, but I don't have my hearing aid on, so I'm just saying, yes. They said, oh, please, go on. Anyway, sorry. Pastor Rebecca, it's okay I go on? Yeah, thank you. Please. Oh, okay, I heard that. Yeah, no, you're so good. I got to say, I just love being here, and thank you for having me. And really, I got to say, something happened in these last few weeks. And Jensen, thank you. Asking that question set me on a path of coming to my own phrase for the year. I'll give it at the end of the message here, but we're kind of walking through it right now. So I let my word for the year come to me by number 2, seeking to explore deeper knowing of God, myself, and others. Seeking. So at first he says ask, and there's a seeking. A kind of setting on a thing of I want to find, I want to discover, I want to explore, I want to be open to looking a little more than just, instead of settling with an answer or even just a word, okay, I'm going to go do that, is maybe seeking God in this. What could you be saying in this word or in an openness to a new word, a new phrase, in the face of some really challenging situations? As I've gone through this way of surrendering, has helped me kind of let go a lot and be more open to seeking, okay, God, in this letting go and not holding so tight to what I think life could and should be, even what I want to do for you, instead of just being open, has allowed me to say, well, what are you saying and how can I seek? I want to know you more. It's made me come to that. I want to understand myself and grow in the ways you want me to, and even with others. It's helped me be more seeking who you are, what's going on with you. And it's just opened up. This year has been so much more meaningful conversations, counseling, encouragements, and connections with people. And I feel God's doing something really amazing. I think I resonated what Dan was sharing. Thank you, Dan. I don't know if you're still here, but I think he's in the back room. But I loved him sharing about Urbana and the vision that he shared to us about his life and his work as well. As some of you know, I don't know if you know this, but in November I went to Europe to a Christmas market tour by bus with John and Nina and some others from Hawaii, and we met up with a busload, 30 of us, 4 men and 26 women. So it was great. They were really good. I'm not going to say anything more. I don't know why you're laughing, but yeah, we were told always what to do really well. No, I'm kidding. And brilliant, wonderful people from all over the United States, all different kinds of people. And actually it started because some of Beth's friends asked last year would I help plan a trip like this. And we went to Eastern Europe, into Budapest, Vienna, Prague, and to Poland, Krakow, and Warsaw. And I don't know if you heard about that, but the whole cities come out and they have lights and just celebrating Christmas. And they have all these booths that are really, really well made, and they have crafts and items and Christmas stuff, but all kinds of handmade stuff and food out there outside. It's beautiful, it's cold, and I was disappointed there's no snow, but other than that, it was really great, wonderful. what was also a side excursion while we were in Poland, in Krakow, was a trip out to Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen, two concentration camps. And so we signed up to go. And what really inspired me was that about 12, 14 years ago, Bev and I, with Pastor Randy, we were leading a group from here and other friends to Israel. And for the year before, Bev had prepared a whole curriculum, because she's as a teacher, a librarian at Radford, on the Holocaust. So she'd been studying all year long, and then she taught a class on that. And then we went to Israel. And on the way, we stopped in Los Angeles for a couple of days, and we went to the Museum of Tolerance by Wiesel. He had that. But Bev had also discovered a smaller little museum on the side. So just her and I went. And in there, it was just a room maybe about this size, and all the walls, and they had kind of walkways through, were walls from old trains. And on that were pictures of children and men and women and stories of people who had been sent, because the Nazis, what they did was, when they gathered all the Jews together, they put them in these trains, piled them in, and took them to the camps, the concentration camps, and to Auschwitz and Bergau, and there's quite a few others. Dachau, to name a few. And so this was his thing. And as we're going through, we're seeing this. It's really moving. It's devastating. It's disheartening. And not only sad, it's just heartbreaking. And when we gone through the end, I found Bev, we were both wandering on our own, and she's talking to this old man. And it turned out he was the founder of this museum, Siegfried, and we became friends. And he was telling us that he was in Auschwitz. And he and his sister, their whole family, the only ones that survived. 1.1 million people died in 4 years in Auschwitz alone. And as you know, in those 4 years, 6 million people died. So we were there. And part of what I wanted to go then, while we're, one hand, this wonderful Christmas festival it almost seemed like so contrast to go out to Auschwitz. But I was inspired by Siegfried, because as we talked with him, he told us that when he was in there, he was captured in, and he did all he could to convince the guards and stuff that he had pharmacy background. And actually, he said all he actually had was he worked for a pharmacist stocking the shelves, but he learned some things, and he convinced them so that he could be in the hospital. This wasn't the experimental hospital. It was just a hospital that took care of mostly the guards, and once in a while the people, the inmates, or I don't know I don't want to say prisoners, but that's the only thing. And but they did very little, mostly taking care of. But why he did that is all the adults who were captured, and in the Jewish people that were in Auschwitz, what they decided was, above all else, they will save the children as best that they can. And so he got in the hospital, and so every day he would make projects as best he could. His imagination and his mind was going 100 miles an hour to try to create situations that required the help of the children. And so he'd make projects, folding towels, anything he could. And particularly, he would really work hard on the day of selection. The day of selection is when, about every 2 weeks, the guards would come and select people, and they would go into a line, and they'd be led off to the showers. And he said it was really sick, is that the first couple of weeks, when they first got there, that, we get showers, and the guards would give them bars of soap. And the showers weren't showers at all. That's gas chambers where they would die, and they'd never come out of there. It was really sad. And that was just one of the forms of torture or elimination they had in these camps, but that was the biggest one. He was telling us that, and in one particular day, he told us that he looked out, and there was a line of adults, and then he saw one child in the middle of the line going towards the showers. And so he pleaded with the hospital administrator to send the guard and I need one more kid. I got this thing I need one more set of hands, please. And they weren't exactly attentive, but almost out of him pleading so much, they'd get him off his back, sent the guard, they brought the kid in, and so he was happy. Oh, great. And then he's telling us, and he looked back out, and in that spot where that little child was taken out of, his best friend was put in that place. And that was the last time he saw him. And we were crying just standing there. And so then we were talking a little bit more, and so he asked, well, why are you here? What got you to the museum? We said, well, we're on our way to Israel. And then he kind of lightened up, brightened up. And he said, really, you're going to Jerusalem then? And we said, oh yeah, we'll be there. And so he pulls out his card. He writes on the back the name of a bakery, and he says, when you go to Jerusalem, can you go see my sister Hilda? And we said, oh, sure. That it's in a bakery made it extra, please. No, he could have said go anywhere. We would have, we were so moved by this. And so we got to Jerusalem. We went, we found the bakery. Our group was at the hotel resting. Bev and I kind of snuck off just went off and went to the bakery. And there, sure enough, was Hilda. We're asking for Hilda. And they said, oh, there she is. We came. She's behind the counter. I showed her the card and she started to cry. Siegfried, my brother. How did you get this? We said, oh, we were in Los Angeles and we met him. He gave us this card and he asked us to come and to see you and to say this. Hilda, I love you. I miss you. And so I told her that. She just cried more. She was so touched. It was very moving, very moving. And then she took out a box, started filling it with pastries. And I said, oh, no. Can you use 2 boxes? No, I didn't say that. I just, oh, no. We just wanted to come. And then she goes, no, you have given me such a beautiful gift. I want to give you something. I said, okay. And then I went to try to pay. She said, absolutely not. Please, this is my gift to you, and thank you for this. Then she says to Bev and I, she says, okay, you come to my house tonight. We'll have dinner, and then you can stay the night. We'll stay up all night talking and sharing stories. Oh, we would have loved to. We couldn't. We were leading a group and had to go, but we thanked her. But I was so moved and touched by them that the hell that they went through and lived through and survived, and the pain and the loss that they experienced with the rest of their family and their friends and all of that, somehow they found a way. They sought out God. And in that camp, in the face of all this evil, all what's wrong, all what shouldn't be and how life should be, they chose what could be and decided we will do all we can to save the children. They sought God. Not easy. And so when I went there to Auschwitz with John and them all there, and we were there, I was kind of going in honor of Siegfried and Hilda. In the midst of this horribleness is this beauty of these people who have a heart that really touched us. And so I think, that's what God's inviting us to do, is to seek a deeper meaning in life, a deeper way in life, a deeper experience of God in our own lives and people. And when we're open and we're asking for meaningful ways and we're open and surrendering to go deeper in our lives, life has this powerful way of moving in God, of meeting us and moving in our lives. So I want to encourage you. And he says, seek and you will find. And anyone who seeks will find. God's saying, I'm going to meet you in this. He's really saying, I want you to, I can only go as far as you're willing to be open, of asking and of seeking. Because it's not a hide and seek. I'm not hiding. But I'm not easily found if you're not ready to be open and willing to seek. And so the question I leave for you, am I open to moving beyond my usual comforts of who I am and how I am? That's what seeking does. It calls us to explore, to move beyond what I'm used to, how I usually am, how life is, what I'm comfortable and complacent with, because he has more for us. We're not over yet. I was talking with somebody about this idea, and she's in her 30s, and she was saying, I'm just amazed at somebody your age. She says, no offense. And I said, okay. She goes, that you still want to change. And that really encouraged me and blessed me. I hadn't thought about it that way. But how significant. And I was talking to my good friend who's around my age about these things. We were talking. He's going through a really hard time. And he says, isn't change necessary to be really living with God and being open to that? And if we're not, we're sort of getting settled and stuck, used to, complacent will set in, and then we get really stuck there. So I leave that with you. Now, final last word is, I let my word for the year come to me by number 3, knocking. He says, knock and it will be open to you, and the door will be open to those who knock. Knocking at the door of willingness to change. Seeking and then knocking, say, I'm really willing to change. I want to change. I want a meaningful, deeper change in my life. And what changes could I sense is needed in me that God could be inviting me to let him help me with? See, when God says ask, he says seek, and he even says knock, doors open. And there's that passage scripture in Revelation says, I stand at the door and knock, and all who open the door, I will come and have a meal with you. And he says the other way too. All of you who knock on my door, my life, and are willing to change, come into my presence. You're willing to take that change and that openness to step in, step forward. I have to be honest with you, I don't know all that's going to happen this year of my life. I just feel alive in a new way. It's been a long 4.5 years. You've walked with me through the loss of Bev, and I love her. I miss her. And yet I feel like this is the beginning of a new life as well. From all of that, through all of that, and really hearing God's invitation to meaningful changes in my life of who I am and how I am. And doesn't throw everything out. I mean, lots could be thrown out and probably needs to be, but also there's some stuff, the way God made me, that is good. And he's refining and cleansing and healing and renewing and also making room for ways of me to live that are new to me. And I invite you to this and to join me in this. When you consider a word, let's make the most of this time. That's fine. And so my word for this year, my phrase for this year is right there in your notes. It's meaningful, deeper changes. Meaningful, deeper changes. That's my word for this year. And it's exciting, it's invigorating, it's also scary, and I'm not all sure, but I know, man, it just means a lot to me. I want to live a more meaningful life. I want to go deeper than I've been in more vulnerable, open ways, and I want to be open. I welcome good changes that are meaningful and deeper with who I am. That's what that word means. When we went for as we were planning to go to Auschwitz, for a couple months, I just was thinking in the midst of what we're facing, what happened with the Nazis, and they devastated Poland a lot. Warsaw and Krakow and Budapest, all through there was just brutally cruel. All through there, destroying people. 6 million people died, but many others were just traumatized and had to run away or live with this, And then, I don't know, really reflecting on how cruel we as human beings can be with other human beings. And I have to say, even in this time, I just get heartbroken when I see children and being, arrested and taken, put into jails because they're here, and the families and all that's going on. I don't have all the answers, but I just know, wait, there's got to be a better way. And it's tempting in the midst of this environment to become hateful and resentful and angry and to attack. I was at a funeral the other day, and I was talking with somebody there, and they were saying that we're talking about, they found out they're from Poland and stuff. They have some roots in that they didn't know, and they went on a boat cruise that went into Poland a little bit. And I said, yeah, I was just there last month. And well, they had that Auschwitz thing, but I didn't want to go. It's too much, too hard. And I said, oh, yeah, I went. It was very meaningful. It was so sad, actually beyond sad, just heartbreaking. She said, yeah, that's why I didn't want to go. And I said, well, it just brought to mind also the environment we're in now. And they said, oh, well, all these illegal immigrants are rapists, murderers, and child abusers. And I just thought, oh, my God. I said, well, this is just before the funeral starting, so I wasn't going to get in too deep, but I said, there are some, that's true, but most aren't. Are people. They're all people. Wow. And that's as far as that person would go. It's just kind of stuck there. They hadn't moved past the meaningfulness of the situation we're in. Now, I get it. I understand it. But, man, that's what we're living in. So I thought about all this. I said, man, it's easy to get, even with this person or any, get angry, get to judging and just going after them and all that kind of stuff. We need to speak. We need to find a way of restoring God's way in our world, in our country. So this prayer came up to me. I hope you don't mind. It's written in your notes there that just came to me, and then later my word for the year. So they kind of fit. But I wrote this, and in Auschwitz they had a little place, a memorial thing where you could leave something. It was the executioner's wall, actually, where they shot people, but they turned it into a memorial. People leave flowers or little mementos. And so I wrote this on a card and I left it there. And it's just simply this: oh God, may the worst in others inspire the best of you in me. May the worst of others inspire the best of you and me. This is totally from God. And in every little thing and every large, even with this person I was talking to, I could just say, oh, you're blah, blah, blah. Instead, I just listened to her and invited her to see people that aren't just what's been labeled. They're people. And that's a work in progress. I'm not promoting anything other than this keeps calling me back. And I feel this is from God. This is my response to the worst of what's happening in our world and in others and in myself. Oh God, may the worst in others and even myself inspire the best of you, God, in me. I leave that with you. So I love this. I'll close with this. How much more then will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? It's really this whole invitation is to trust that God has good for you and I and for everybody in this world. He really has good for us. And the things that are not sure or doubtful or afraid of that because we've been hurt or mistreated, we get it. God gets it. He accepts us right where we are. And yet, he also says, I love you and accept you right where you are, and I love you too much to leave you right where you are. I will always be inviting and encouraging you to find your way through that. Let's do that together this year with these words in this way. We can't cement ourselves in our hurt and trauma and our own ways forever, and yet we can be there and to see and then begin finding our way to ask and to seek and to knock and allow God to do something new and meaningful in our lives. So I leave you this, meaningful, deeper changes. That's my word for this year. I'd like to, in a moment, just pray. Pastor Rebecca's going to come and explain a little bit more, but what we're going to have is, and in this moment, a time of quiet reflection and a time for you to, if you have a word already, look at it fresh and ask God, is there a more meaningful way? It could be a different word. All of a sudden, I'm inspired to think differently and hear you. I'm asking you. Or can you give me new, fresh, insightful meaning of how to live into this world? Or at least an openness to. Maybe you don't have a word at all, and then ask and sit and listen and let God speak to you. What the pastors have done is they have cards up here and all kinds of words that might help you hear God speak to you. Ask, God, is one of these for me? And the one you see kind of float up from the table, that's when you may not see that actually happen, but don't be surprised if you come and you're not sure, and then all of a sudden, it almost as if it floats up. It just all of a sudden your attention is drawn to that. And I got to say, a couple of days after I met with Jensen, and I was in my morning, where I do a little reflecting, journaling, and devotions, and all of a sudden, boom, these words came, just like that. I hadn't thought about this, I hadn't crafted this, and I'm just saying that was my experience. I've been doing this for Word for the Year for over 30 years. I remember I was first taught it when I was in kindergarten. My teacher taught me. No, I'm kidding. Sorry. So I've been working through this for a long time and still find it challenging and meaningful. And this is a fresh way for me, and I invite you to that. So consider this. Let's just take a moment of quiet and let this be the sacred moment of God speaking to us. I'm going to invite him to join me. Oh, Heavenly Father, yes, we're asking, what's a meaningful way you want for me in this year? I want to find, I want to seek in a new and fresh way with less, holding less and releasing more. I'm knocking at the door of willingness to change. Just even a willingness, I know you greet with joy and openness and not demanding. We might not even know what change comes, but we trust you because you always have good in your heart for us. Come, speak to us. Just a moment of quiet for that. Gracious God, we thank you for this moment, this sacred moment, this opportunity. Thank you for meeting us in our trust and in our mistrust, in our openness and our resistance. That you are here. You love us. You have good for us. You start where we are, and you help us find our way with you. We come, we ask, we seek, and we knock. Come, Lord Jesus, in your precious name. Amen.